Hey guys, it's Charlotte, and I'm aware that today's video is gonna be a bit controversial, polarizing, but I'm making it anyway because I'm speaking based on facts, logic, and science. So let's get into it. What is this video about, may you ask? Well, the main topic today is men versus women. Or should we actually be focusing on empathy brains versus brains without empathy? That is where our focus needs to be, guys. So I've written down all my points in kind of point form. I don't know. I wrote a whole essay, honestly. But let's go through it. Let's get into it. First point. First of all, the whole men versus women, or it's ignoring the gender binary. So just putting that out, and it's just black and white thinking. To try to pit two groups against each other, focusing on something like men versus women, that isn't the problem, because one group isn't the problem. There are people with no empathy brains in all genders, in all walks of life, in all religions, in all political parties. They hide in different ways in each of them. The people with no empathy and the evil people that are technically psychopaths or sociopaths or narcissists, they usually don't get diagnosed, and they're not gonna tell you. And because of this, as a society, we are unaware that that's the actual problem, those that don't have empathy. And instead, our anger and our distraught and our worry is divided into group sectors that aren't actually at all the problem. Like, it's not just women that are abusing, it's not just men that are abusing. It's human beings. And the one common wavelength between all of the people that commit senseless, violent, self-serving, and or sadist crimes, what do those people all have in common? They don't have empathy. They don't have empathy. It's not because they're a man. It's not because they're a woman. It's because their brain does not have empathy, bro. They lie to you. They know that that's not normal. And they lie. And you're fooled. Society is fooled. Because instead we're pitting groups against each other when that's not reality. Yes, in some groups, evil people thrive easier, or it's more common, but when it comes down to it, it's if their brain scientifically has empathy, or if they don't. Next point. There are evil human beings. There's evil human beings. Period. It's not just one group, not just one gender. There's evil human beings out there. And what are they? Those without empathy. It's that simple, but no one's talking about this. No one's normalizing this. No one's putting it into layman words to help society and educate laymen and people so that we can see those evil people in the world. We can notice when they're lying to us, and from that keep ourselves safe. No, society, governments would rather have us unaware and fighting against each other instead of putting our focus where the focus should be, on those who do not have empathy. Next. Yes, statistically speaking, men are more likely to be violent offenders. However, I personally believe that there are just as many women without empathy as there is men without empathy. So just because masculine human beings have more testosterone, because of this, they are more likely to have anger outbursts and violent outbursts. Remember, this is all if they do not have empathy. A man with empathy that has high testosterone is not going to abuse people or commit violent crimes. Why? Literally because their brain isn't wired that way. It's that simple. That's the problem, the lack of empathy. So put your focus where it needs to be, which is on and against psychopaths, sociopaths, and narcissists, aka those without empathy. That's who we need to be hating. That's who we need to have our focus on and be like, those people are evil. Because they are. Scientifically, those are the ones that are inherently evil, because they inherently don't have the ability, aka empathy, to care for others. Without empathy, they're naturally self-serving. And everything is about them. That's how their brain works. That's hard to understand and even conceptualize for those of us with empathy. It's like, really? They did all that maliciously? That was their malicious intent all along, just for themselves and just to use me? Yeah. Because they don't have empathy. Their brain isn't the same as yours. They're specifically manipulating you, and they're well aware of it. Like, they know they're not normal. And they're not going to admit that, though. Remember, you have to realize that. You as the empath, we as the empaths have to protect ourselves. And this is how, by identifying these people. Instead of just hating random groups and creating fights and wars and no. Let's put the focus where it needs to be. Which is those without empathy and how we go about identifying and stopping those beings. Next. Those without empathy are more likely to avoid therapy. They're not the ones willingly going to therapy. The empaths are. The abused are. The victims are. Because we're the ones in pain. The abusers, they're just wanting to abuse more. All they want is more abuse. They just want more dopamine, want more quick fix at the expense of others. Because remember, they don't care about others. Their brain can't. Like, it's just that simple. Their brain can't. So we have to accept that and be like, those human beings are crazy. They are literally built different in a bad way. Yes, okay, to continue on the point, those without empathy are more likely to avoid therapy. And if they do go to therapy or are forced to, like my first groomer was forced to go to therapy and he fooled the therapist as well as his wife at the time. Fooled them. And wasn't diagnosed with what he should have been, which is psychopathy, aka antisocial personality disorder, and being a pet. That's the reality, but he wasn't actually diagnosed. Like, so just note that it's not going to be in the statistics, because psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists, they're not going to admit, they're not going to go in therapy and be like, yeah, I manipulate everyone around me, I like children, I go after. They're not going to say that. They're not gonna tell you, yeah, I killed that person, unless they're caught. Like, that's one thing, like, at least kudos to Jeffrey Dahmer for admitting at a point. He was already caught, so he's kind of forced to, but most don't. Most continue abusing, go under the rug, fool the empaths around them, and aka make them become flying monkeys, and keep going away with their crimes. And then society's not focusing on them because they're focused on group versus group instead of the true problem, which is those human beings with brains that don't have empathy. So because of this, lack of empathy, brains go widely undiagnosed. These evil people slip under the rugs. They're your father, they're your mother, they're your friend, your best friend, they're your coworker, they're your boss, they're from all walks of life. You'll start identifying them as you learn this and learn about how their brain works, and then see, that's what their motive is. That's why they said that. That's their intention. Okay. And just noting that and then separating yourself from those people. Yeah, and because of this, diagnoses for lack of empathy brains go greatly undiagnosed and pushed under the rug. And because of this, these people are more likely to get away with crimes with no justice for their victims because they fooled society. People don't know. People are unaware and uneducated. Laymen are uneducated, so they don't understand the true problem. They don't understand the brain science behind it, which it's sad, and that's why I'm making this video. And again, this isn't gender specific. This is individual. And can be a human being from any walk of life. So I talked about how men are more likely to be charged for violent crimes because those with lack of empathy that have more high levels of testosterone and they don't have empathy, they're more likely to those anger outbursts, so they end up acting more on their evil desires rather than women and femme-leaning brains with less testosterone but still are individual women that don't have empathy. Those lack of empathy women tend to be more covert and passive aggressive than men and masculine beings instead of being upfront and immediately violent. This is partially due to the lack of testosterone. Because of this, evil women's crimes can go undocumented or are just less likely to happen because of this. This, however, doesn't mean that violence doesn't happen or manipulation from women. It just means that it's less likely than those brains and bodies that have testosterone. That doesn't mean that those evil women and evil femmes aren't going to manipulate you. They have no empathy, just the same as the men. They just go under the rug more. And it's not as common. They don't have that testosterone, that aggressive energy as common in their bodies to act on those desires. But still they will. Many do. Like, look at the women abusing our young boys. Look at that. And everyone, oh wow, but she seemed so nice. She was a soccer coach. Yeah, because that's optimal for a PDF file to groom children and fool everyone around them. That's optimal, and they will do that, and they know that. So stop being fooled. Stop being unaware. Stop being uneducated. Start learning. Start helping yourself and your children and society and those around you that are getting abused, that you turn a blind eye to and you don't notice because you're unaware. Let's make that change. All genders, all walks of life, all movements, all religions, all political ties, they all have evil people within them. Those evil people with lack of empathy brains. They're hiding in all of these different groups. It's not just one group. They're everywhere, using different covert means to take advantage and manipulate and hurt others and get their dopamine fix from that. Because their brains, they get off. They get off on hurting others and getting their ultimate goal. Making others suffer so that they get dopamine and happiness. That's what it is. It's crazy. Next, let's stop incorrectly pointing the blame and instead focus on the true logical and scientific problem at hand. The humans with lack of empathy brains. That is where the focus should be. Simple as. And remember, the people without empathy will not tell you that they don't have empathy. It's up to you to figure that out. Yeah, that's hard. That's hard because it's like, society can't save us that way. These people are walking among us. Yeah, they are. You have to wake up to that. You have to realize that. This is something, sadly, that we have to decipher as individuals. We have to educate ourselves. Because we're not being taught this by mass media. Me, a layman, me, a girl in poverty in the Canadian prairies, is educating you guys on this, is giving you this scientific information. Me, some random girl. Like, that's insane that I have to be the one to educate people. I had to learn this myself. I had to educate myself. How did I do this and how can you do this? Through psychological self-education for free. From reading and consuming knowledge from medical professionals online and literarily. That's how. It's for free. You can as a layman. I have. I'm poor. I learned. Others can too, and this is how. Blaming a certain group or gender and pitting a whole group of people together that is combined both with those with empathy and those without, doing that, that's a lost cause. Camera died, so I'm just recording here. Okay, it's a lost cause. Guys, it's a lost cause. It's not based in reality. It's based in ignorance and societal unawareness. It's due to lack of societal education for laymen. Let's change the societal narrative and bring it back to science, logic, and reality. Last point, how to heal our society from these people. How can we as a society stop these people, stop these beings with lack of empathy brains? Because this is the problem, and right now society isn't saving us from them. It isn't deciphering them. It's not medically coding them to see if they are an evil human being or not, because that information is find outable. It is via doing MRIs. So, yeah, how do we do this? How do we heal our society from these people? First of all, not breeding with them. This is why abortion rights are so important worldwide, and why I think some evil psychopaths in positions of governmental power, especially in the USA, are trying to get abortions banned. You know why? Because then they can't force women to have their psychopathic offspring. Now there's laws and measures to stop it, so they can't breed. And they can't make more like them.
Because it's genetic. This is passed on genetically. Stop breeding with them. First step, stop. Stop having their offspring. Next, of course, the first step is to identify them, which I'm trying to do with this video. But next is, once you figure that out, not interacting with them, avoiding them, getting to a point in society, and what is something that can be put in place in our society, in governments, in laws? Well, getting to a point in society where we can do MRIs on each citizen at a certain age to be able to decipher if they have empathy or not in their brain. And get to the point where we can legally lobotomize or heal their brains with surgery to give them empathy in those cortexes of the brain. That can be medically done. That is the solution. But those people should still not be bred with, because genetically they still carry that gene. They still carry the lack of empathy possibility in their offspring. So they should not be bred with, period. Lack of empathy is genetic and can be passed on through offspring. Like, that's just the facts of it. Okay? Those are my thoughts. Those are the facts. That's science. Those are realistic solutions to realistic problems in society that people are turning a blind eye to, not consciously, but because society is not teaching us. Layman, public education, this isn't being taught when it should be, because this is the main problem of crimes in society and is literally where evil comes from. Like, this is where evil stems from. So just being aware of that and thinking, okay, well, what can we do? Because me, some layman girl, has a solution, but no one else is talking about it. Like, no government's talking about this. No, not that I know of, at least, as a layman. It's not being talked about or shown to the public. So the public doesn't know, and because of that, the public's unaware. It's ridiculous. Anyways, so all in all, stop pitting random groups against each other, not based in science, and instead just based on your personal belief or personal let's focus on science, okay? And that's all. Let's stay away from these evil human beings. Let's stop breeding with them. Let's put measures in society in place to diminish the presence of these beings of evil in life. Like, it's that simple. Here's the solution. Do with this information what you will. Okay? That's all for today from me. Life Experience Layman Charlotte signing off. Goodbye.